G'day guys, welcome to the third of our Jimbo webinars. My name's Mike Davenport, and tonight we're going to take a look at a little bit more in depth of a few areas of Jimbo. On the line tonight also we have Eugene, who is logged in. Eugene is our IT manager. He will also be able to answer some of the questions as we move forward. Now, it is a muted session, so what we encourage you to do, if you do have a question, please type it in through the chat. And as I said, Eugene will attempt to answer that question, and if not, we'll try and answer those all at the end as well. So tonight, over the last couple of nights, we've run some sessions, and that's mainly been about targeting specific people who haven't used Jimbo or were using an older program called Jim's Jobs and didn't know how to come on board. Tonight's session is more about pulling apart some of the areas and perhaps just going through some of the processes. So without knowing what level people are at, we're sort of going to basically try and target about the centre. So before we do kick it off, the area that, just as a few reminders, the area that you do go to is the www.jimbo-app.com is the website for everything Jimbo. So, for instance, if you have some franchisees out there who need to log in, or you're speaking to other franchisees, send them to this website, and this is the website where they can register. It'll also be the website where it'll perhaps answer a few of your questions along the way as well. If we take a look here, if I move forward through to registering for Jimbo, if I just click on that, just as a reminder, if you ever forget your password, you simply need to log back into registration here for Jimbo and simply put in your details again to get those details resent back to you. So for instance, you'll also see at the moment we only have about 14 or 15 divisions that are available on Jimbo, so there's still a few divisions that haven't come on board yet. I'll just quickly log in again. So Jim's Mowing, I'll type in my name. Throw in your franchisee code, and then you need to type in your email address. Now the point to just make out there is that you need to make sure it's the email address that is represented in Jim's Online. So in this case, mine is my Jim's Mowing address.net. If you have a different address, you need to update that into Jim's Online to make sure you're getting the detail. Again, just confirming that I can see this particular email, and I can now send that off. What will happen now is that'll just reshoot me an email, and that will have all of the same details ready to log back in. So again, just a point to remember in case you do lose it. Heading back out to the main page again. So we've registered for Jimbo. There's obviously a section for frequently asked questions. It is encouraged that all franchisees go there to start with because it will help answer some of your questions. So you can see we've got a number of different areas that you can just find out whether or not we can answer your question quickly. You'll see that in most occasions, if you're using Jimbo, it's probably a quick answer to keep you moving rather than going online or going onto the phone and trying to spend half an hour on a phone line trying to get one answer. So again, just some simple areas that you guys can check out yourselves first. There's also our tutorials page, and you'll see here that we also have access to the user manual. And I do want to point out the user manuals are fantastic. I think they're very well done, and you'll see here if I go to page 10 just that there's a heap of screenshots and then there's all the stuff that's around them to explain what's taking place. I often reference the manual. Someone will ask me something and I'll often go back to the manual, and I find it very well written and very simple to work my way through. So again, just encourage you to check your manuals, check it online, and just you may well be able to answer your own question. The other part I want to point out also is that, again, probably most of you may know this because you've already registered, but we do have some online videos. The online videos are fairly short, so they're only going to be 30 to 60 seconds long. And what we've tried to do there is build it in such a way that if you want to know how to add a client, bang, you'll simply watch that video, and within 60 seconds you'll be able to add a client into the Jimbo app. We're not going to make you sit through 15 minutes and then the last 2 minutes is how to add a client. So what we've done is built about 15 or 16 videos that, as I said, very short, very sweet, and just making sure that it focuses on what you actually want to know in that area. Like all things, we have a feedback section. Again, it says video feedback. That's all about trying to make sure we've got the right videos on board, but also just your feedback as well about Jimbo. So if you've got some feedback, please, I encourage you all to keep giving it back, because the more people using it, the more support, the more feedback we can get. From the latest numbers, we've just about hit 1,000 users. So they're registered users that are now using Jimbo, which is great. The last page, just to show you before we log in and keep moving, is obviously our contact support. So we now have an external company that's doing all of our front-end support. They can be contacted on 1300 648 123, or you can call them on a landline 03 8609 2510. You can also email them at support@mobiliseit.com. So they will answer all of those front-end questions. If there's something that can't be answered, they will then contact our IT department at Jims, and the IT guys will then contact the developers to get the answer for you in that sense. A couple of things I want to quickly point out before we do move forward. Just some support through the Christmas period. So the national office will be closed between Wednesday the 24th all the way through to the 5th of January. But Mobilised IT, they're only shut down on mainly the main days. So they will be able to provide the support all the way through. The other thing to point out there is it's only open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m, and that is Melbourne time. Okay, so I can understand early days when you're perhaps trying to work it out. You may be doing it at home at night like now, and so therefore it could be a little frustrating. But obviously when you are using it through the day and you do have an issue, that's the time to call our Mobilised IT so that we can get some answers for you straight away. Again, with this page, there's a quick link to the manual. If you do have any sign-up or Jims Jobs importing questions, again, we can email infotech@jims.net, and they'll be able to help you out there. If you have some carrier-based issues, so you've got your Wi-Fi and all that on your iPad, and you're on the Jims Optus plans, obviously mobile plan at jims.net, they can help you out, or you can call 0424 159 868, and they'll be able to answer any queries that you have. If you are using another carrier, so for instance you're with Telstra or some other carrier, you will need to contact them to understand why your iPad's not working correctly from that point of view. Obviously, if you have any payment inquiries, finance@jims.net will certainly be able to answer all of those questions for you. All right, let's move forward and let's log in and have a look. So tonight I'm going to log in through our training version. So this will enable us to just have a quick look around. Unfortunately, with some of the training versions, we obviously have a lot of people that we train, and so therefore there's a heap of data in there. Sometimes the data doesn't make sense, so we need to be a little bit careful, but at the end of the day, it's certainly some data that we can play around with. As you would know, when you certainly log in, it will alter the caps lock for you as you go through, so you don't need to change that at all. I'm going to log in as our demo, and I'll throw in our password. Okay, so when you first log in, no doubt I would think most people that have logged in today have already set up all of their settings. Just to quickly run through that, if we click on this little button down the bottom, which is our little dimple, and then we go to our settings, you'll see here down the left-hand side, we've got a number of areas that we can set up. Now, obviously with our performance targets, it's an important area to set up in terms of getting the right reports at the other end. If we don't set up performance targets, then some of our reports at the other end aren't going to look too flash. So I've just simply set up some simple details in there. December 14, 50 jobs per month, monthly revenue of $8,000, and paid hours per month 120. Again, you guys can change all of that information to reflect what's going to suit your business. Just remember to save all that information. So each section has its own save button, just so that you are updating all of that information at the right time. I won't go through each one of those because I've no doubt that you've already done that, The only one I do want to point out will obviously be our invoice notes. So for instance, you can have a blanket message that you can provide to all your clients. So right now you could do something like a Merry Christmas. If we do Merry Christmas in this section, therefore that will apply to every invoice that we provide to our clients for as long as we choose to do that. Obviously come the 1st of January probably, I would remove that note. You may there put in Happy New Year, and then after that you may just leave it blank. So again, it's just a good area to be adding some blanket notes, and it saves you typing those in every single invoice. If you're obviously doing 10, 15 invoices a day, it becomes quite painful. But with the simple click here, we can apply that to every single invoice. Okay, I'm going to save that, and we now will move forward. So, just going to head back out to the main office. Click on the home button here in the top left-hand corner. As I'm sure you all know, if you are using the iPad, you'll always be swiping and pushing and moving around. If you are on the online version, obviously click and drag to go to the back office. And also you can use your left and right keyboard arrows that will take you back and forth as required. So again, just pointing out some of the simple stuff. Want to head over to our clients. We're going to set up a customer. So just running through some of those basics. Just to make sure that people are certainly filling it in the right way. So we add a customer down here in the bottom left-hand corner. We've now got, obviously, this area here in the middle grayed out because there's no client details, and we don't have a GPS location for them as yet either. I'm going to put a client's name in by the name of Adam Purple, and we'll use him tonight for some information. I won't throw in the phone number, mobile and email. Obviously you know that if you put an email address in that doesn't look right, the system will reject that. So just making sure you don't have spaces in it and things like that. I'll just quickly put an address in on Smith Street, and we'll make that Chadstone. Done. If you are using your iPad, you know that the current location will work. Just a quick tip on that, just make sure that it does pick up the correct number. Sometimes if you're standing on the different side of the street, it may say it's number 6 when it possibly is number 7. But again, it's a great little add-on to the iPad. Obviously doesn't work on the online version. Let's save that, and let's see now what takes place. So it'll probably struggle to pick up the GPS location too well because it's not really a direct location, so it's only a bit of a dummy address. You'll see here now that we've got Adam Purple situated in the center section. To set up a job, obviously we need to go and click on job, and then you'll see this small little plus sign here where we can start to add some information in. So if we click on that, we now have some options about how we go about. So I'm just going to put in here, for the sake of this test tonight, the job is a Mo regular job. So in terms of the appointment date, one of the tricks here is, and we see this often with our franchisees, is they go, yep, that's the 18th and done. But unfortunately what's happened here is we haven't actually entered a date. What you do need to do is click back on it and then actually click on the date. Okay, once you've done that, click on done, and now we'll be able to go forward into some of our other boxes, like things like scheduling. In this section here, you can also put in a number. So for instance, let's just say it's a $55 job. Again, what will happen there is it'll take the job description of our Mo regular, it'll also take the value of $55, and every time I produce an invoice, it's going to pre-populate that for me. In the invoice, I can change that, I can modify it, I can edit it, I can do whatever I like, but what it's saying is, this is basically what you're telling me, I'll put it in the invoice to get it started. Once you've done that, we can click on save, and you've now got yourself set up a job card. Something nice and easy, something nice and simple. From here, we can now add a quotation into the system. So if you come down to the bottom section here, you'll see that we've got add quote. I'll just quickly click on that. And while that loads, you'll see here that in the left-hand corner of the screen, it should start to appear that we've obviously got the Jim's Group logo, but when you do log in, you should have your own divisional logo in there. So for it's Jim's Mowing, or whether it be Test and Tag, or whether it be some other division, that will appear in the left-hand corner. You'll see here that my quotation has come across as Mow Reg, $55. That was the information I put back in the early boxes, and it's going to do that for me every single time. Now again, I can add to that. I can add to that by simply clicking on Add Item. So if I add an item in, now this particular list here, you'll see is certainly not mowing services, but whatever your division is, it will certainly provide that, that full listing of your services. I'm just going to type in here on the side, a pruning job, and I'm going to simply put a value in there of $165. You'll see also here that we've got quantities. So you've got to remember that the system has been built for basically 39 different divisions. Some divisions will use, job quantity 1 and 165, so it's a simple pruning job. If you went to another division, it might say, well, hang on a sec, we do 50 tags, and the price of that tag is $5. So you can see that certain divisions will do things differently compared to others. I'll just turn that back and make it 165 and pull this back to 1. So you can see here now that we've got at the bottom here, we've got a total owing of $220, and that's based on the information we've provided. Remembering also that you can turn around and delete something. So if you're with a client and the client says, look, I tell you what, forget about the pruning, we don't need to do that sort of thing, click on this little box over here on the left-hand side. You can now add or delete at that point. Okay, so I'm going to leave it in just for the purpose of the exercise. We can also add any notes in here. I might say that they were the bushes on the west side. So just putting in a simple description. You'll also see up here in my quotation that I've got the message of Merry Christmas. So again, that's pulled up from where I've set that as my settings, and it's going to add that to it. We can certainly delete that. I can change that. I can put other notes in if I need to, as required. Down on the left-hand side here, we've obviously got our warranties. So that'll be different for each division. So you can dial that up, and I would suggest you talk to your divisional about what your warranties are. In terms of your payment terms, obviously, most people would be suggesting 7 days, but remembering too that if you are working for some commercial sites, it may be a longer period of time that you just need to work with. Again, put 7 days there, and then certainly need to follow that as part of your admin. If the client was happy with all of that, we can save that. And you'll see here that it generates a PDF. You just need to wait that little bit longer, and then it will say that it is saved, and we can now close that. If you're working on the iPad, you'll obviously have a little button down here that talks about emailing that, and you can email that straight to your client. Now, if the client already has an email address set up in the card system, then bingo, that will pre-populate into the email and off it goes. If you are working on the online version, you will need to save it to PC, and then once you've saved it, you can attach it to your email. So whatever you're using in terms of email, if you're using Outlook, you just use that as an attachment and attach it and send it to the client. Okay, the great thing about the system, I think, is the fact that you can switch from quote to invoice very quickly. So in a lot of occasions, people provide a quote and at the same time do the job and then provide the invoice. So if we click that over to invoice straight away, we've now got ourselves an invoice. You've got the option of saving that. So you can quickly save that if required, and again, that'll generate a PDF for you, and then you can certainly close that once it's saved. In terms of the payment, you've got the options here. So the client now owes $220. We can click on this little plus sign in terms of the payment history, and we'll make that $220. So I'll make that nice and simple at the moment. That's going to now obviously cancel out the whole invoice because it's a full payment. You need to click on the little plus sign at the end. Again, a little step that franchisees are forgetting to do at times. We now create a payment history. Okay, so you can see it all up there in the box. We've now got a payment history on the 18th of December and a payment of $220. If I now click back on that and say OK, you'll see that my balance is now owing $0. In terms of the payment type, let's just say it was paid by cash. Your authorization numbers, again, you can probably manipulate the system with that to reflect some other type of numbers that you might have, but probably the authorization name and number would match up with a purchase order number. So if you are working for a commercial client, they may give you a purchase order and say, there's the number. You'll put that onto your invoice, and then that way they'll be able to match up the invoice with the purchase order, and all of their accounts will balance properly. If you are using the iPad, you can obviously click on the customer signature. Because we're online, we certainly can't sign on that, but the client can sign for that with their finger on your iPad, which is a pretty cool thing to do for clients as well. So once we've done all that, if you were on iPad, we could email that out, of course, and send that to the client. Otherwise, if you've done it at home, save it to PC and then email that back to the client through your Outlook system. I'll save that, and you'll see now that we've got a box here that talks about completing the job. You'll only get that box once we've booked the job in, we've done the quote, we've done the invoice, and the invoice has been paid in full. If you haven't got the invoice paid in full, you won't get this section popping up, because what it's saying is that the admin side of the job hasn't been completed. So once you click on that, it'll certainly just say to the system that it's all completed and all done. Okay, so if I get out of there for a second, what I will aim to do is go back in and look at some of the scheduling side of the clients. So if we pull those clients back up, just get this dimple to work, go back into your customers. I'll pull up the client of Adam Purple. I can see him probably right there. I will just do a quick search. So if I type in Adam, you're obviously only going to get your options. So I'll click on Adam Purple. And that will obviously load up with his details. If I go back into where the job card is, we can now set up a schedule. So in this case, I'm going to say that Adam wants some regular mowing done. So to come down to the bottom section here, I can click on the schedule, and this will now enable me to set up my schedules. I'm saying it's a recurring job. If it's a recurring job, I click on this particular box. Now the good thing is that we can now also take a look at setting that up as a weekly, monthly or yearly job. If it's yearly, you can click on the yearly part and you're going to have now options. So depending on the service you're providing, or whether you also just want to contact the client 12 months later, you could turn around and say, right, in October of every year, I want this appointment to come on my screen, and I'll contact the client. Or it may be a service, so it may well be a gutter cleaning job that you do once a year, and you're able to put that in, and that will then schedule that into your schedule. Again, if you're doing something on a monthly scenario, you can turn around and say, so if you're working for, a real estate agent, they tend to want things once a month. You might say on the 30th of the month, I will go and do that job. Vice versa, if you're in some divisions, they might have some regulations around checking something every 3 months. So you're able to say, right, every 3 months, on the 30th, book that job in. The other thing to do is, obviously then there's some weekly services. So again, depending on your different division, you're able to make that 3, 4, or whatever number that you actually want, probably more down towards the 1, 2, 3 area. Otherwise, you'd use the monthly scenario. So if I made that every 2 weeks on a Wednesday, that will now log that in my schedules all the time. When does it repeat till? Again, it only looks out 2 years. And so what will happen then is, once we look out 2 years, 1 month prior to that expiring, you'll get a little screen that will pop onto your iPad. It'll say, does this person need to go any further, or do we expire now? So again, if you've got a regular client, you'll probably turn around and adjust it for another 2 years, and that will continue on. So I'll just make that the 30th of the 12th, and I'll put in there 2016. So we're basically putting it out now for 2 years, every 2 weeks. So we should actually get something like 26, 52. There's probably going to be 52, 54 jobs over the next couple of years that we're going to go and service this particular client for. And if we take a look when it loads up, we should be able to see that the job is allocated around that number. Probably find it's simply my email connection, my connection, just holding us up. Also, the great thing about the card there. Have a look back here. Yep, I've got 53 jobs. So it's actually calculated correctly as well. The other thing that you can do is you can shift an appointment as well. So for instance, client might turn around and call up and say, hey, listen, don't do the job today. Can you do it tomorrow? By clicking on this little green button, you're now going to get all of this information back. So you're able to alter the date. You're also able to alter the price, and you're able to put in any notes that you want to put in as well. And you can change the duration of time as well. The other good thing I meant to point out before is that when you do go to schedule a job, it's going to give you this type of screen here, which means you can take a look at what's on for that particular day before you schedule the client in. So you might have a number of jobs on and think, geez, I can't put you in that day. I'm going to have to shift you to another day. By turning around and changing the date here at the top, you're able to do that, and you're able to then see if you can fit them in another day. So if I actually had a quick look here and said the 19th, it'll give me the jobs that are then available on the 19th. So again, it's just a little part of the system that helps you work through and sort it out. I'll save that, and that part's all done in that area. I'm going to get out of there, and I'm going to take you over to our calendar. And we're going to have just a quick look at some of this information. I have seen a couple of little chats come through. It's a little bit hard to answer them all quickly at the moment, but let's just have a crack at answering some of them. You'll see here on a day basis, it's also going to have a layout of clients for you. The good thing about some of it is you can shift and move your clients around, which is good. You're just confirming that. You might also have a client that rings up and says, hey, listen, that job you were going to do, can you do the whole job today? So you might have to turn around and say, right, I'll actually log that out for an extra few hours as well. So again, it's just nice and simple in terms of your schedule. The schedule also is going to point out how much you're earning for the day. So that's that figure over here on the left-hand side. If you take a look at your weekly schedule, this will now start to show you what's on for the week. And you'll see here that we've got our clients all booked in. I saw a chat before that said, hey, what if it's wet and you need to shift it to the next day? Just as a simple part of it, let's say this client here goes over to here. Yep, we've just rechanged that to the next day. So again, depending how you're running your business, you certainly can move the clients around, and it won't enter, it'll alter the schedule on the day as this has just done, but it won't alter the schedule in the background. It'll still produce that every 2 weeks on a Thursday. So it'll take it back to its old schedule. If you wish to change the whole thing, then you're going to have to go back in and alter the schedules. So you can see here also we've got a total value of the week, and you've got all of your clients. When you are scheduling a client in, what will happen is, not so much in this system because we've got multiple users at times using our training system, but what will happen is when you enter your clients in, it'll put the first one in at 8 o'clock, and then when you enter the second one in, if you're not really doing time frames, it'll put the next one in at 9 o'clock. It'll put the next job in at 10 o'clock, and I'm just altering these as I say it. It'll put the next one in at 11 o'clock, and it will continue to do that all the way down. Excuse me. So you've got all of those functions that's going to do it for you. We have this little section up here. That's because we have some multiple users using the training site, and so therefore they're feeding in the information all at the same time. If I get out of there, head back to just one of the main screens. I want to quickly just show you also some of the stuff around the expenses. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat and it's just waiting to jump out. Obviously adding expenses is really simple. It's always going to load up today's date, and the simple way of doing that is simply by adding an item here in the right hand corner. To do that, you simply type in, obviously we'll use fuel on this occasion. The good thing will be to do is add the invoice number. So when you get your tax receipt, simply put in the invoice number, put in the amount that you spent, and you'd also then say whether you paid cash, credit card, FPOS, whatever it may have been. I'll keep this one as cash. The good thing about the iPad part of this system is you can now take a photo and keep that as a record of that receipt. So it really is a paperless society. The ATO will accept that, and you can now get rid of the receipt. Probably what we say to people when they're first starting out, obviously go through a couple of quarters and just have the confidence in knowing you don't need your receipts. So I'd still encourage guys to hang on to that stuff. Once you take a photo, you'll see here that we get a little symbol down here on the left-hand side. That's representing the fact that we've got a photo taken of a receipt. If you also want to do a search, you can. So this little section here, we click on that. We're able to put in then a search. We can search for a title or an invoice number, and you can also put in there a date range. Once you've done that, that's pretty simple. You can also add in an expense that is previous. So if I wanted to put a date or backdate it to the 15th, let's say that I've picked up all my fuel through the week, haven't had much time to put them in, so I've sat down at the end of the week and said, right, let's put in my fuel receipts. Click on the 15th and create that. You'll see here that I had some other stuff on the 15th. I can now add this particular item in. So it might be, I'll change that to internet, put in there an invoice number, and there's a value for my internet. Done. Take a photo and it's all sorted. So you can backdate that and also do a search. In terms of your CSV file, being able to send that to your bookkeeper or your accountant, if you click on that, it's then going to download that for you. The point to remember about some of the CSV files that I just want to point out, especially in Jimbo version 2, you just need to understand that the CSV file may need to be manipulated to suit the certain package that you're using. So CSV files all revolve around basically columns of data. So you just need to double check that the columns of data will match your accounting software package. And once you've done that, you're fine and ready to go. Okay, so we talked about the searches, adding new expenses. That part's all done. What else I've got to show you? We can just want to talk about some of the calendar applications. So you've got the Jimbo calendar and you've got your iPad calendar. The thing to remember is it actually overlays. So it doesn't actually embed in the same, it just overlays. And so therefore you can see your private on Jimbo, but you can't see your Jimbo on your private calendar. So just to repeat that, you can see the private information on your Jimbo calendar. So for instance, you might have some doctor's appointments or you might have kids' appointments and all that sort of stuff. You can actually see that stuff when you're working in Jimbo, but when you're looking at your private calendar, you won't see all the Jimbo jobs that are actually in there. All right, so just remembering that in that sense. All right, we can look backwards at that. What I will encourage everyone to do is to make sure that you also, if you do have any questions, please email infotech@jims.net because it's fairly important that they're getting your feedback and we're taking a look. I think I've showed the reports to most people over the last couple of nights. Again, I'll just put that in here just so that we can talk about some of the information. These are based on the information we're giving it. So it's important to remember that, like any computer system, if you don't provide the detail and keep it up to date, then therefore it's only going to tell you half a story. So if you're going to do jobs in the Jimbo app and then keep jobs in a diary, bingo, it's just not going to give you the full picture. So you can see that we've got some great reports here on site, and they work really well. So by double-clicking on one of the graphs, you can pull that up and have a good look at exactly what's happening. Most people, if you gave them a spreadsheet, probably couldn't fully work it through and say, where's all my expenses? But I'm certain you can see here with the pie graph that we've got probably nearly 75% is spent on loan repayments. So it's something that the individual franchisee may be able to review in part of their business. All right, we don't have a lot else to show you. Again, most of that, if you are using it, just some tips and tricks along the way that you'll pick up. What I will do now is I'll take a look at some of our chats and we may try and answer some of those. I'm not sure what's been answered by IT, so let's we'll just take a look at some of these. So in terms of the session, that's it for the session, and I will attempt to answer some of these on the way out as well. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight, and I certainly look forward to working with you, Jimbo, in the future. Thank you.